Hi, camera.
Hello.
How
It's
are
us.
you? Oh goodness. So, my brother's about to be executed for petty reasons. What would normally be thought petty reasons. And so I appeal to Angelo to let him live. And I do really well in a way, because then he's like, okay, I'll let him live if you sleep with me. And I'm like, no thanks, that goes against absolutely everything I ever wanted to do with my life. So I'm sad about that, and I'm approached by this friar who knows Mariana, and he's like, I got the girl for you to solve this problem. So we're gonna sneak Mariana in my place, and Angelo won't be the wiser. Or will he?
Yes, and all I have to do is say, remember my brother. Remember my brother. Just to make sure that Angelo knows that, remind him of the cause that we're really after here. And then we get to reveal to him what has been done, and then he can reap the consequences of that. And I think it's a really interesting way of showcasing how little regard a lot of the men in the play have for the women in their lives and for the consequences that their actions play on those women. Because we see Juliet, who basically has very little to do in the play other than be this accessory to the crime that has gotten your brother put in jail. And Mariana and Isabella are both in ways also accessories to what is going on, and collateral and damage to what is going on. And I think that ending scene is very satisfying in a way of reminding all of the men in the play that their actions have consequences, and that these two women are part of that consequence. And I really appreciate that, because something I love about Shakespeare is that he always writes such very thought-provoking women, and he gives them a lot of personality even if they don't appear on the page very often. So realistically, I had a friend who absolutely loves this show, and she saw that MSC was doing it, and she said, you have to audition for this show. And I said, okay. But more seriously, I love Shakespeare, and I think his portrayal of characters as so wonderfully multifaceted and human is something that I really appreciate in his work, and I think that Measure for Measure is a great example of that part of his work. I love that none of the characters are really morally cut and dried. All of them are living in a wonderful gray area. Some of them are just more gray in one direction or another, and I think it's really fun to explore that on stage and do a show that isn't done as often in the Shakespeare canon.
Yeah, and I think when it's a show that's not done as often, you can be more creative with the character, because there haven't been a whole lot of other people you've seen do it.
Yeah.
But also what drew my attention to it is, like, there's most of the Shakespeare, I feel like it's like 75% tragedy with 25% comedy, or it's 75% comedy and 25% tragedy. And this one feels like it's 50-50.
Yes,
It feels like it's absolutely half of each.
Yeah.
And, sometimes that's a challenge, because it's like, well, this could be a really dire scene, but maybe we can fun it up in places. And so it's the director guiding us to what the vibe is for the storytelling in each scene, and figuring out how to fit that vibe, because it swings.
Yeah, and sometimes even within the scene you have a very dire moment, and then you'll be like, and now the funny guy's gonna come in and say something. Okay, we were crying a moment ago, but yeah.
It's wild.
Yeah.
When we were both sisters in Comedy of Errors, we were fighting over the same guy.
Yeah,
because
we didn't know we were, but we were.
Yeah, like, it was my husband, and you were the guy you liked, you thought was also my husband. So we were like fighting over the same guy. And in this show, like, the same guy is involved between us, but it's not a fight.
No,
I'm like,
it's really not.
It's all for you. I'll help you get him.
Yeah.
There's no fight involved with the guy in the middle.
Yeah, and I think we really built a rapport as Luciana and Adriana in Comedy of Errors, because it was kind of us. We were playing the straight men in a lot of ways in that play, because we were just trying to figure out what was going on the whole time, while the Antipholi and everyone just sort of did their comedy around us. And I think that in this show, We are in a similar place, but also, again, an opposite place where I come in as sort of this, like, I made the joke, Deus ex Mariana. I'm just sort of plucked from the background to have a help with the solution to your issue. But it's really great to be on stage with somebody that I already have a rapport with, because even though we don't see us interact very often, we still have a sense of shared purpose that we already come into the scene with. Because we have a little scene where we go off stage and we're supposed to be chatting about something and come to a conclusion, and then we come back on stage, and it's great to have already sort of done that work off stage just by already having acted together.
Right. And our last, in Comedy of Errors, we were actually sisters.
Yes, yeah.
And this one, we, like, start as complete strangers, but I think from the first time we meet, we instantly become each other's ride or die.
Yeah.
So it catches up quickly to that same dynamic.
Yeah, and I think we end the play by basically, like, I swear my life to you if you'll stand up for me.
Yeah.
So we definitely do become very bonded at the end.
Yeah.
No, truly, I think that Measure for Measure is a gem of Shakespeare's. I think that it is an eternally relevant Shakespeare play in the way that many of his shows are. They retain a timeless quality, and I think that Measure for Measure has indeed stood the test of time, and it is a very timeless story about, a timely and timeless story about greed and lust and manipulation and the things that we do for the questionable motives that we have. And I appreciate that everybody is multifaceted, even the villains, even the antagonists of the story. They are not cookie cutter in many ways, and I really appreciate that, and I think that that is something our audience can walk away from the story feeling like they have something to chew on thought-wise. Because it does really make you think. And, like, Comedy of Errors was very fun, and it was a great time, but it is indeed a comedy, and it's a very early work comedy for Shakespeare. And I think Measure for Measure, it comes at a very interesting time in his career, and it really reflects the nuance that he was starting to bring to his work.
And there's a lot of characters in here that, like you said, they don't feel cookie cutter or quite like the stereotypes we usually see. You know, the ingenues that we have are not the typical ingenues. And like that. So it's a very different sort of experience. But like you said, it's because it's Shakespeare, there's still actually a lot of it that is relevant today, and a lot of the situations and the way people respond to those situations is still fairly relevant.
Yeah, and we talked in rehearsal a little bit about Angelo as an antagonist and our relationship to that, and the nuance that comes with that, and we talked about it in relationship to some of the other famous antagonists of Shakespeare's work, and especially because this was around the similar time to Othello and Hamlet, in which we have characters like Iago and Claudius. Claudius in Measure for Measure. Claudius is in Hamlet. But we talked about the moment in Hamlet of Claudius praying and how that gives Hamlet pause, and how we have a similar nuance within Angelo. And I think us as characters who have very differing opinions upon him, we kind of meet in the middle of having that moment of Hamlet watching Claudius pray and going, oh, this man has layers. Oh no, I can't make a cut and dry decision about him.
Yeah, and honestly, some of the things that Angelo says, I think there are people in the audience who would be like, that's not the most evil or crazy thing I've ever heard. So it's a thing. I mean, even Isabella herself, you know, at first in some ways, she's like, he's making some amount of sense, even if it's harsh. So.
Yeah, I think the most poignant moments are the play in which we all go, oh, we're all a little bit too much like Angelo, and that scares us.
Yeah, I think that's what we're all most afraid of.
Being too much like Angelo.
Yep.